What is good? Welcome to the post market analysis. All right, so let's just jump right into it. This was the first day back for a lot of traders. I know I went ahead and took a trade on Friday, and the setup was there, and I took my trade. Um, I don't. I think this is probably going to be 5 to 10 minutes tops. Point blank period. The setup that I like to trade and has been the most profitable for me, I want to say December, um, did not happen during, the market hours. Um, the one that showed up, the internal breakout that I like to use to get into, um, didn't come up until 7:15. Let me make sure I put that up. Yeah, or 7:26. And I remember saying I feel uncomfortable with that. And I think in my past experience, I want to say the last 2 weeks of December, when I would see this come up at 7:15, I think I took one of the trades and it did basically what happened, what you saw here. So 7:26, that was like right around here is when this is when this internal breakout happened. 7:26, like right around here. And and as you can see, could have gotten trapped a little bit because this right here, I think there was a fair value gap if I'm not mistaken. And I remember saying like it does look pretty solid. I liked that price. Yeah, I think there was a fair value gap here. And price did open above this level right here. Um, and I remember I said, you know what? It's a little bit just too close for comfort, but it's okay. I mean, this is part of it. The reason I like doing this versus back testing is because I like recording it, is because you get to see the actual movement. I feel like with back testing, you don't get to feel how IWM really moves or any trade for any stock for that reason. That's part of the reason I like to record it live because um, I got a little critter flying around here. So yeah, there was a fair value gap here, and then you would have waited for it to come back up here. Um, it opened here, which I felt was really good as well, also because we had this indicating we were coming to the upside, and then we tanked, and then had a lower low, and then seemed to have this swing to the downside. But at this point, this is part of what was kind of troublesome to me is that in the past, when we have an internal breakout, but I think again, part of it had to do with it coming up like around anything 7:15, 7:30 with this internal breakout. I think just as precaution, I'm gonna just consider myself out of, not really take it. And so, we attempted to move to the upside here. You wouldn't have made very much off of that move. And then I imagine it was just, I was thinking of how I would have talked you guys through this trade. And I think, you know, if we had held up until now, it would have been super frustrating because our profit would have gotten wiped all the way out. And we would have opened below the fast EMA, which to me is a hard cut rule. Um, Whenever you like, especially like how this was going on the upward trend, and I kept talking you through it, and I said, well, we're working off of this, and um, if we're entering calls, then we're not going to exit until price breaks below it, and so price broke below it, and so I was watching this while I was at work, but essentially you would have gotten faked out because it came around here. Let me see, so 7, and then you got a second one. I didn't see when the second one popped up, but if this is 7, come up at 7:26. So one, two, like 4 candles in. So let's say, yeah, somewhere around here, this would have popped up. You could have decided to risk it, but again, it would have been just super frustrating because you wouldn't have made very much before it wiped out all your profit and then had the audacity to open below the fast EMA again, right? Let me delete this because this is like when I tell you guys to get out, I tell you guys to get out at 8:30. And I remember I was watching this and I was like, well, I told my people to get out at 8:30. Uh, um, and then would have definitely gotten faked out because I felt bad for anybody who got into calls and right after 8:30 it just rides up. And again, it's just kind of tricky because you don't want to keep breaking rules. You want to have rules that you follow. And I just feel like if the rule is if price opens below the fast TMA, granted, this is a bounce level. That being said, it's also relatively close. It was relatively close to here, so you could have tried to hold, maybe to 50% of here, which again, look, I mean, it came all the way down to the depths of this internal breakout. So I just don't like the mental capital that would have gone into being like scared poopless, and then have another attempt up. And then at this point, you're like, okay, well, we're above the fast CMA. And then that's when you would have started to see a little bit more upward buying movement before you hit something up here. It did go, so let me see. Now, that being said, it did go from this pivot level right here to this pivot level. I don't know if you guys can see that. So it went from here to here. Okay, so IWM is consistent. It does do patterns. You got to think of these are going to be your teammates. This is how insight to how they are going to play for the rest of the year. Um, so take with it what you will, but I just feel like one of the things I was able to get into a trade for QQQ. I'm not sure that I would say I'm disappointed in myself. Let me show you what happened in QQQ. QQQ and IW SPY had a 1 hour gap, and part of the things about being raw with yourself is that you have to um, ask yourself, like even in my case, is this something that I can replicate? When I go to my journal, what is it that I saw that will make me be able to repeat that play? So mind you, on IW on QQQ on the 1 hour and on SPY, there was a 1 hour gap, which usually when we see that on IWM, honey, when we see that on IWM, we're finna eat. Okay, we're finna eat. Um, and so that being said, I still do believe that QQQ and SPY are gonna fill the gap. You could have decided to risk it and get into some puts, swing some puts, but I'm not in a position to really just be slanging my money around like that. You guys hear my little Bruno? He just wants to be heard. Hold on, I'm gonna yell at him. Hold on. Oh my goodness. So I just wasn't in a position to really. I don't know. One of the last times I did like swings, I was just like, oh my god, you know. I just didn't want to hold and watch. Tomorrow gonna wake up and this whole gap gonna be filled, honey, just filled. But for the most part, IWM did not have the 1 hour gap. So long story short, what I saw, um, what time did I get in? I was definitely in and out. I was out of my trade by 6:36. Surprisingly, that's wild. No, 6:42. So right before 7. So I think what I saw was this. We were somewhere in here. I think that's what I saw. And so so no, but this is 8 o'clock. It was definitely before 7. That's wild, y'all. So I think what I saw was this part right here. Price had opened here. No, because I was already out by 6:45. So I think I got in. I was seeing a rejection off of this zone right here. Hold on, y'all. I apologize. Okay. So well, I remember that I was seeing like a rejection out of this area right here, and it had moved quite a ways down, and I think we might have even been like somewhere up below this VWAP. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going down, we're going down. And the thing is, I was like, it dropped, but I remember this is what I saw. Let me show you. This is what I saw. And I was like, you know what? Let me jump out. Let me jump out. Mm-mm-mm. So I was out by 42, 6:42 ish, which is that's kind of scary. I got in. I was done. I got in somewhere around here. Yeah, I think I got in like right around here, somewhere around here. And I remember I decided to get out because I could see that we had lined up with something here. There was a VWAP here or something. And I got out, kid you not, like somewhere around here. Because I saw it like bounce a little bit. And I was like, this is a bounce area. And I just didn't want to have to wait for another candle. Y'all, this thing came back up here and just barely touched this and then just wicked up. And I was so like, oh my gosh. And then I think as I was exiting the trade, I saw that we were going into this 15-minute level, which is also a buy zone right here too. But a part of me was trying to think like, oh, this is our rejection. We're rejecting off of this level, and that one rejection off of this 1 hour time frame is going to be strong enough for us to really push to the downside and go hit that gap. But it's not a replicable move. If I'm keeping it 100. And then the other thing too is I also did not see an internal breakout to the downside over here either. So that's just wild to me. Um, so I just have to, I'll show you guys what we saw on SPY. I'm sleepy, you guys. Oh my gosh. But nope, I got my steps in and I'm gonna go to bed early as soon as this is done. Um, isn't this pretty? I like a naked chart. Like even before all this stuff comes on, I can see why people trade like with not as much stuff. Um, I was actually more bearish with QQQ just because of the news and how a lot of the materials that we need for like stuff like NVIDIA or for tech will be affected. So I figured the Qs would be affected. I didn't even really bother to look at SPY. Um, but looking at this, it looks like SPY didn't necessarily give a play either. Um, that I'm used to, and I don't want to keep strategy jumping and stuff like that. In the past, I have seen like this form pre-market and then start to look for calls, but I can tell you that is not a foolproof. I have, I've learned to just wait for some type of confirmation in here. Even though this is a beautiful play, it's just not a setup. And then I'll show you on the 1 hour. It also had the 1 hour gap. I was actually bearish, you know, and none of my technicals were saying anything bullish, so I just waited for confirmation to the downside. But usually with IW12, when you have this VWAP gap, and I'm pretty sure this will get filled, right? But again, we just kind of stayed. This one was a much cleaner setup in terms of, although you might have gotten faked out right here too. I think you saw that same setup on QQQ. Then what's messed up is this would have formed. I like this. Um, I would have jumped in and then gotten faked out, so that would have pissed me off. But this would have been like around 7:39 at the end of the hour. So I don't know. Today was just one of those days where, and I was looking on my feed because I talked to you guys about this like over the past couple weeks too. Like it would be frustrating for me because oh my gosh, you guys, this is exactly why I like to use indicators. So there's a 24-hour order block that was formed. But let's go take a look at that and see what that means for tomorrow. Ooh, your girl is sleepy. Oh, it's over here. Hmm. I know this looks like a lot of lines. um, this is kind of like a liquidity zone right here that I'm not too very fond of. Um, but yeah, so what this formed at set or like right at close. So we might have a little bit of a pullback tomorrow um, before we have more upside. It does that on a smaller time frame, like 1, 2, 3. Look at price open. Oh, usually when these order blocks show up on the smaller time frame, it's on the fourth candle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't see the fourth candle, but um, usually it will pull back and then um, go to the upside, right? Um, we could do stuff like this where I'm replacing the this is the most highest time frame, so this would be like top of 24-hour bullish. And this is going to give you a pretty strong rejection off of here. Um, I'm going to replace this 15-minute level. I'm going to rename it. Percent of 24-hour bullish. Um, I'm gonna leave this because I feel like this is a level that we're gonna have to come back and revisit. And for those of you that are gonna know, you're gonna know. Um, I'm doing a little bit of free market analysis here. Just happened to catch that. I don't normally one, and we had a 1 day order block form as well. I feel like this is a gap. No, isn't this a gap right here? I feel like this is a gap. I don't understand why. Hmm. I don't understand why the gap indicator is not coming up, but that's a gap, y'all. It's gonna want to come back and fill that. Am I missing something? Yeah, that looks like a gap to me. I'm gonna make this visible only on the 1 day. I'm sorry. See if anything happened on the 3 month. Price right now is at 252.73. That's right here for the 3 month. Oh, for the life we have. For bullish. Ooh, okay. So here on the weekly, I'm gonna do this. We rejected a little bit. How much did we reject off from here to here? 53. So we rejected like $1 from here from this weekly rejection zone. So we kind of toyed with it a little bit, but I would say 50% of that would be like right around here. I'm gonna move this to. It's so interesting how these levels line up. But I'd say that's about 50% of that, right? I'm gonna delete that. Um, and another thing you could do too that I was kind of there's different ways to look at this too, but this you can move this down in here because this is where sellers stepped in. I mean, hell, like even here, right? But we had sellers really stepping right here. And if you're moving up though, you want to be kind of aware to start looking for puts around here, and then you come back and like kind of look here too. But yeah, this is where step last time sellers stepped in. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I love you like this kind of stuff. Um, kind of knocking out pre-market analysis for tomorrow. Just kind of giving a little bit of liquidity zone in here. Ooh, look at this. A little bit of a reversal going on, but anything so top of bullish. Um, I don't know. This could be a good entry area right here, or like right here at 50% of this fair value gap. We did open above this candle here, so that would have been a nice entry for me, but alas, No. And then let's see here. Mm, 3 hour kind of give you an idea of direction. You rejected this right here too. The 3 hour is kind of solid too. 3 hours solid. There's a reason I have the 3 hour. Entered this rotation level, which makes hella sense because we ended up kind of getting chopped and screwed in here. And then the 1 hour, we bounced off of this and up here. uh, you know what? On the 1 hour, did a 1 hour fair value gap form? Because how did I? But this was at 7, right? Let me see. I just want to see if there was something I might have missed. Um, Here I have calls wave. 6:45. We had a bullish fair value gap. 5 minute fair value gap. 15 minute fair value gap. Buy side liquidity. Ah, here it is. I missed this. I did not see this. So that being said, um, and we had a 3 minute internal breakout at 7. I did not see this. Yeah, I did not see that. Um, I want to see something. So 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. Yeah, that would have been the next best entry. You would have still had some chop. What is that line right there? What is this? I'm a little annoyed. Let me go to a higher time frame. I'm annoyed. What the previous week high. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. So that was previous week high. It's just unfortunate. I did not see because I wouldn't know what to do with that. I want to say like when I had seen that, if I had seen that, I would have said this is enough of a bounce for me to want to jump in. But it's okay. I'd say definitely be prepared for tomorrow because people who might have felt, that they didn't get their moves would. I think part of what is frustrating, I remember feeling kind of FOMO-ish um, is because this is a clean setup for people who got in, and especially people who got in above the VWAP. If you hold that until end of day, you should have been solid. Is there anything else I wanted to say? We did have PMI at set 7 o'clock, um, and the data came in just like zero point 0.1 off, 0.21 off. So we had data forecast. Oh, come on. Are you going to give it to me or did we already? Uh, so PMI manufacturing was forecast at 48. We came in at 47.9, so we were off by zero point 0.1. Manufacturing employment came in, was forecasted at 44.1. It came in at 44.9, so just zero point 0.8 higher. Manufacturing new orders was forecast at 47.2. It came in at 47.7, so just zero point 0.5 of a difference. Um, Manufacturing prices was forecast at 58.6. We came in at 58.5, so just zero point 0.1 of difference. Um, the 3 month bill auction previously was at 3.5. This time around we came in at 3.54. Before it was 3.57. In case I didn't, I'm a little bit sleepy, so I just want to make sure I'm saying my stuff out. And then the 6 month bill auction was previously at 3.5, and then the 6 month came in at 3.475. Total vehicle sales um, was forecast at 15.6 and actually came in at 16 million. So I think, yeah, it was mostly bullish. You could see that in the market. But yeah, tomorrow's another day. Um, a little bit ticked. I didn't really see this. And I didn't see this either at 7, for whatever reason. Let me just double check because I'm not sure if this one is, yeah, it's once per bar. So, because that'd be, oh, if it was like end of candle close, but no. Mm, all right, you guys. I'm gonna go to bed. How long is this video? Too long. I'm gonna talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.